Good morning. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Laco Würzburg. The Laco Würzburg is available from laco-watches.com for €980. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the Würzburg comes in this matte black outer cardboard watch box, as you can see. On the lid it's branded with Laco 1925. So Laco have indeed been making watches in Germany since 1925. The brand has a rich pedigree and heritage. One removes the lid to the cardboard outer watch box, and inside is a travel case, as you can see. So one removes the travel case. Now, the first thing I want to do is give due criticism to Laco for using this travel case. Yes, it's very aesthetically pleasing. On the lid it has Laco 1925 pressed in, and the stitching is flawless. It's finished to a very high standard. My criticism is that it's not made from genuine leather, although it does give that impression due to the grained finish. It's actually made from vinyl plastic rather than genuine leather. Now, bear in mind that this is a mid-tier price point piece at €980. And at that price point, one would really expect to see genuine leather. Yes, it's acceptable to use vinyl plastic with a Steinhardt Ocean 1 costing €450. One expects that in the mid-tier. But for example, I've recently reviewed a Lume Navy Graph, which is a €750 watch. It's made in France, and that uses a genuine leather rather than vinyl plastic travel case. So the way I see it is this: if Lume can do it at €750, there is no excuse for Laco not doing it at €980. It's significantly more expensive. With regards to the finish, the interior is fully fabric lined with a felt material. There are two elasticated straps on the underside of the lid, as you can see, and these straps secure the warranty card and the owner's instruction manual. In the lowest section it also has two elasticated straps which secure the watch in position when in transit. So the travel case does suffice in protecting the watch in shipping from any damage, and it is a useful alternative to a watch box. However, I do consider it to be a disappointment due to not being made from genuine leather. With regards to the other items one gets with the piece, one gets this owner's instruction manual, which is basic. It does have some diagrams and it does detail the various crown positions, so one can learn how to operate the manual wound movement used in the piece. So useful read if you're unfamiliar with Flieger watches and manual movements. One also gets this international warranty card. Now, I'm pleased to report that the Würzburg comes with a 2-year international warranty. This would normally be stamped with the authorised dealer's stamp and also the date of purchase and the reference number of the piece. I think at €980 it's perfectly acceptable to have a 2-year international warranty, and I think it's very reassuring. Lastly, one also gets this tag which says Laco 1925, made in Germany. On the reverse of the tag is the barcode and reference number of the piece, the Laco Würzburg. Now again, this is disappointing because it's meant to look like leather, but it's made from vinyl plastic. And these are clear cost-cutting measures by Laco. They're not using genuine leather for the tag or the travel case. Everything's made from vinyl plastic. And I really think it's a disappointment at €925 to have accessories like this made from vinyl. So, with regards to the watch itself, the Würzburg is a classic Flieger style watch, as you can see, and it is 42.5mm. So Flieger watches, German pilots' watches, typically have very large case sizes. 42.5mm is a typical size, and they often come in an even larger 45mm case size or even 47mm. So if you like Flieger watches, this really is the ideal proportion because 42.5 is a large piece. Now, it has a 50mm lug-to-lug measurement, as one would expect, a 22mm lug width, and interestingly a 10.7mm thickness. So I just want to put the thickness into perspective. With automatic movement watches such as a Rolex Submariner, the thickness is 13mm. So at 10.7mm, although this is a large piece because of the 42.5mm case, it actually wears very low profile and it would easily slip underneath a shirt cuff. 10.7mm is the advantage of having a manually wound movement rather than an automatic movement that needs to have a rotor on the underside, which would increase the thickness of the case needed to house it. So proportions are very good. I think the 22mm lug width perfectly balances that 42.5mm head of the piece. With regards to the rest of the specification, the sword hands and the dial are lumed with C3 superluminova, and C3 is one of my personal favourite superluminova grades because it gives a characteristic green tone to the lume, and that replicates the tritium and even the earlier radium lume which was used on Flieger watches in the 1940s. So I think C3 superluminova is a good choice for Laco to use on this Würzburg Flieger watch. Sapphire crystal, and it has an AR coating on the underside, and the AR coating is very useful because it is a highly reflective sapphire crystal and there is significant glare due to the large size of the crystal on that 42.5mm case. So nice quality sapphire crystal. It's flat rather than having a dome to it, and that really does improve the legibility of the dial and hands in all light conditions. Classic Flieger dial design with the triangle arrowheads at 12 o'clock and the minutes indexed in 5, 10, 15, 20, etc. So large sword hands. The large minute hand is a classic Flieger style. It's very easy to read the time, and it also has a 12-hour indexed in Arabic numerals. So very functional dial layout, and I also like the seconds sub-dial at the 6 o'clock position. I also like the fact it's not over-branded. It simply says Laco at 12 o'clock and made in Germany at the 6 o'clock position. There's no unnecessary clutter or information on the dial. It just is a very well thought out classic Flieger dial design with an index chapter ring. So easy to read and very legible due to the AR coating on the underside of the sapphire crystal. With regards to the rest of the specification, it has a screw down case back which is also glazed with sapphire crystal. So it's good to see that Laco haven't cut any corners with regards to the specification. For example, they could have used a solid stainless steel caseback to cut production costs, but they haven't. They've used sapphire crystal in the exhibition caseback. And the other positive is that the flat sapphire crystal in the caseback means that it wears very low profile. As previously discussed, it only has a thickness of 10.7mm. So it's good that the sapphire crystal hasn't added any extra thickness to the low profile watch. Now, one thing I really like about it is that the weight of the watch is lightweight, bearing in mind it's a large piece and it has a exhibition case back. 80.5 grams is very lightweight for a 42.5mm watch with a 22mm lug width. So although it's large, it doesn't have any heft, and this is a very comfortable piece to wear for long periods of time. So for example, if you're looking for a daily wear piece to wear for 8 to 12 hours per day, this is the perfect watch because it's large, it's clearly legible, but it doesn't have heft because it's on a leather strap rather than a stainless steel bracelet. So very comfortable due to that flat sapphire crystal glazed exhibition caseback. Now, with regards to the movement, it's another positive of the piece. As you can see, it's a manually wound movement. There's no automatic rotor. Laco used the caliber Laco 98 refined, so I'll explain what the Laco 98 actually is. It's an ETA 6498.1 Elabor grade movement. So ETA movements are made in Switzerland rather than Germany. This watch is made entirely in Germany, but it houses a Swiss-made ETA movement. Now, the ETA 6498.1 is a very reliable, well-proven movement. It's actually been used in pocket watches originally, and since the 1950s it was used in both pocket watches and then also Flieger watches for German pilots. So the ETA 6498.1 is very well proven in both pocket watches and also manually wound Flieger watches like this, and I think it's an excellent choice because it does give that vintage aesthetic, bearing in mind that Flieger watches were used in the 1940s. So I like it. I think it's a good choice. Now, this is a Labor grade, so it is decorated. As you can see, it has stripes which are milled on the bridges. They are like Geneva stripes, and it also has blued screws. And I think the blued screws and also the Geneva stripes, which are very aesthetically pleasing, they really do give a very good quality feel to that ETA movement. So I really like the quality of the finishing. And it's nice that they've chosen to use a sapphire exhibition caseback to show off that decoration. So very aesthetically pleasing manually wound movement, and the winding gear is beautifully laser engraved with Laco, so they've put their own mark on the ETA movement. So good quality German made watch with a good quality Swiss made ETA movement. Now the disadvantage of using that ETA movement, the 6498.1, is that it doesn't have hacking. One cannot stop the second hand dead to set the time precisely to the second, and that's going to be divisive for a lot of collectors because hacking is a very important complication for many collectors. They like to set their watches precisely to the second. However, that's the negative aspect of the ETA 6498.1. It doesn't have hacking, even though it's a manually wound movement. With regards to the rest of the specification, it has 17 joules. It runs at 18,000 vibrations per hour. So it's a relatively low beat movement, and the negative of that is it doesn't have particularly good accuracy as a result. Really, 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz is the sweet spot when it comes to the compromise between accuracy and power reserve with automatic movements. But this is manually wound, and it's a characteristic of the manual wind movement that it runs at a significantly lower beat rate of 18,000 vibrations per hour rather than 28,800 vibrations per hour of other ETA automatic movements. So yes, it does have a good power reserve at 46 hours rather than the 40 hours one would get with, say, an ETA 2824-2, for example. But the trade-off is one loses accuracy when one gains the power reserve. So 46 hours power reserve is very good. But the accuracy at plus or minus 12 seconds per day is nothing special. Now I'm pleased to report that this one is indeed running at plus 8 seconds per day, which is within the stated plus or minus 12 seconds per day accuracy. So yes, plus 8 seconds per day is acceptable, bearing in mind that it's a manually wound movement. And I think that 46 hours power reserve is very good if this is going to be used as a daily wear piece, because you could manually wind it on a daily basis to give it 20 winds to top up the movement to its 46 hour maximum power reserve. Really the only disadvantage is the lack of hacking, as I've discussed. So I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, it's often the case that watches are just a fraction too short for my 8-inch wrist, and as you can see, this indeed is the same. Had Laco made the strap just a fraction longer, it's ½ inch or an inch longer, it would have indeed fitted my 8-inch wrist and I would have been able to engage the end of the strap in the 2 leather keepers. So that's a disappointment, but I'm not going to be wholly critical of it because the majority of collectors will have a 6 to 7 inch wrist, and I'm absolutely confident that this leather strap, which is very comfortable, it's calf grade leather strap, it really would fit the majority of collectors. On the wrist it's very low profile, as I've discussed it's only 10.7 millimeters thick, so it will easily fit underneath the shirt cuff due to the flat sapphire crystal on the front of the watch and also on the back. The AR coating does a good job of reducing the glare and reflection of that large sapphire crystal. The blue tints to the sword hands give interest to the dial and hands. As you can see, when I tilt the watch at an oblique angle, it picks up the blue anodizing on the sword hands. So clearly legible due to the large lume plots of the C3 Superluminova on the hands, but it also adds interest. I like the contrast of the metallic blue of those blued hands. They look silver in some light, and then when one tilts the watch, it changes to a metallic blue. And I think that's a very nice touch. It's a classic Flieger design element of those 1940s German pilot watches. So very aesthetically pleasing and very comfortable. Now with regards to the calf leather strap, it's genuine leather and it's handmade in Germany. As you can see, it says Laco 22 for 22mm. Flawless stitching, 2 keepers on the strap, 1 slides, 1 is fixed. Very good quality finishing. Solid stainless steel buckle and tang engraved with Laco, as you can see. Nice finishing to the buckle. It's going to be durable and last a good length of time. The strap is very soft calf leather, and it's immediately apparent that it's not stiff and inflexible like many leather straps. It doesn't need any breaking in. As soon as you take the watch out of the watch box, you can feel just how supple it is, and it's going to be a very comfortable strap. So I like it. I think the quality of the calf leather strap is very good, and as you can see on the underside, it's pressed in with handmade in Germany. So very high grade of leather strap, and I really like the choice of a brown leather strap. It really does suit a Flieger watch, which is meant to be like a 1940s German Flieger watch. The crown is beautifully executed, nice finishing to it. It's an absolute pleasure to manually wind it. One can feel the crown winding gear building up the tension in the main spring, increasing the 46-hour power reserve to its absolute maximum. As you can see, it's signed with a Laco L, so very nicely executed. I think it's comfortable to use in terms of its operation, and although it's a push-pull crown, it does provide an effective hermetic seal to 100 metres of water resistance. Now bear in mind, this is a daily wear piece, it's not a dive watch, and therefore 100 metres of water resistance is perfectly acceptable for a Flieger piece. And I also think that the screw down exhibition caseback, which is solid stainless steel and glazed with a sapphire crystal as I've discussed, is done to a very high standard. Nice brushed concentric brushing to the stainless steel portion of the caseback, and I also like the flat sapphire crystal. It's just very well done, it's nice to look at, and again it provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 metres of water resistance. So let's do a Lume test and we'll see how the C3 Super Luminova performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum performance. So I'm just going to charge it up with my 100 UV LED torch and we'll see how the C3 Super Luminova looks. And as you can see, as one would expect, it's glowing very brightly. And I really like the large lume plot on the sword hands. It really does give that classic tritium glow effect of C3 Super Luminova. I really like the green tone of it. It does give it that vintage look. Even on the sub-dial at 6 o'clock, one can see the seconds hands moving round very clearly with the sword hand. So the lume is glowing brightly and it's continuing to glow for a good length of time. I think C3 Super Luminova is very aesthetically pleasing. I like the indexing on the chapter ring. One can clearly see the minute ticks. But, however, I'm going to be critical because as you can see, only the 10, 20, 40 and 50 minute marks in the Arabic numerals are fully lumed. I'll switch back on the lights and you'll see that they made a mistake with this. Now, the 5, 15, 25, 35 and 45 large Arabic numerals are not lumed, even though they look the same, they're white. So my question is, why did Laco not just fully lume the dial? Why are only the 10, 20, 40, 50 minute marks lumed on the dial? Why didn't they fully lume the dial, the whole lot? And this really does say to me, this is a cost-cutting measure. They've actually tried to cut down on the use of a fully lumed dial because using more C3 Super Luminova means more production cost. And I really think it's disappointing at €980 to have a dial which is not fully lumed, to simply miss out the 10, 20, 40 and 50 Arabic numerals, to not lume them. It just doesn't make sense. It really would be more legible, more functional if they fully lumed the dial. Missing out some of the Arabic numerals is totally unacceptable. So that is a major negative of the watch and it's something I really dislike. So lastly, I'll surmise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet two criteria. The watch should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So the price point of this Würzburg is €980. Yes, I consider it to be excellent quality. The build quality, the quality control, the case finishing, including the bezel, the brushed satin finish to the flanks of the case and the brushed satin finish to the screw down exhibition caseback are all done to perfection. Very well done. The quality of the brushing is first class. It really is 10 out of 10 quality. So yes, it's excellent quality. Is the watch excellent value? Well, I'm going to say no. Really, it's disappointing to see things like the dial is not fully lumed with C3 Super Luminova. They've missed out some of the Arabic numerals as I've discussed. The lack of hacking with the movements really is a disappointment. If one's going to go to the trouble of using a Swiss-made ETA movement, it really has to have hacking, and ETA are now producing manually wound movements with hacking. So at €980, I would like to be able to hack the movement and set the time precisely to the second. It's acceptable at low-tier price point watches, but not in the mid-tier at €980. One has to have hacking. So major negatives: the lack of the full lume on the C3 Super Luminova on all the Arabic numerals, and the lack of hacking. The other thing is, I really don't like the fact that the movement only has plus or minus 12 seconds a day of accuracy. Really, I think at €980 they could have used a higher grade of ETA movement. Yes, it's a lab all grade, it's decorated with the stripes and it also has blued screws, but I would actually like to see a higher grade of ETA movement with hacking and better accuracy. There are more credible alternatives. So overall I would say yes, it's a good watch, but it's not excellent value. It's excellent build quality, but at €980 there are more credible alternatives. So Laco is well known for Flieger watches, and I think this is the kind of watch that is bought by purist Flieger watch collectors because of their 1925 heritage and making German pilots watches in the 1940s. They do have that brand appeal, but I think it's one of the watches that a collector would buy for their hearts rather than their head. So I'm not going to recommend it. I'm afraid it falls short of my expectations. Excellent build quality, but not excellent value. The value is acceptable. So I hope you've liked my review of the Laco Würzburg. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.